There was discourse in late December, towards the beginning of winter, where a whole bunch of teachers started talking about how, whether because of the pandemic or whether because of laxer teaching, that many grade school kids from kindergarten through middle school are reading 3 years behind, and some high school students are as much as 6 years behind, right? And it's scaring a lot of people. There's a channel called Takiana, if I recall correctly, wherein they say that we have convinced a whole bunch of new young people that all you need to do in order to be successful in school or in life is to show up and behave, when what we're looking for is people who are actors, people who do things, people who want things to happen. And I understand, right? I understand that the future looks very, very hopeless for a lot of people. The way the deck has been dealt, it's hard to really meaningfully think that you can make a difference or change things. But it's more about making a difference in your own life. We have the right to be disappointed and frustrated with the world, but to be unmotivated is very, very deadly. It scares me, really. It honestly scares me. Not only because, reading is important. If I'm being perfectly honest, I don't read nearly as much as I should. I don't blame you for not reading, but it's a skill you must have, because reading is somewhat... I've always thought that written text is a imperfect translation of conversation, real conversation, people talking to each other. And part of reading comprehension is being able to understand more and more complex and interesting thoughts. It's like a primer for when you're going to be talked at like that by somebody who knows their stuff. It's really important that we gain the ability to listen to someone, hear someone's words and thoughts, break them down into what they mean, and then be able to respond to that. And ELA, English Language Arts and Reading, is the primer for that. It's the training for that. That's not being taken seriously either by students or by teachers, that kids are still progressing when these are incredibly important life tools for them to learn. Scares me. And I don't think it's the kids' fault necessarily, right? There will always be kids who love to read. There will always be kids who love to write. What scares me is that, at least anecdotally from these teachers, that a grand swath of them are going to go into adulthood without those skills. Without the skills to parse. And parsing is so important. The ability to take what seems to be meaningless random information, just the yap and words, and break it down. I do say that to some degree, that if you as a writer, as a speaker, as a communicator are not understood, that it is your fault. That making your point accessible is part of the art of being able to speak and write. But at the same time, it scares me that there aren't going to be a lot of people who try to understand things anymore, who look for translators in the media criticism department or use other softwares in order to break it down and let them understand. Which, I mean, there's nothing wrong necessarily with having ease of access, with being able to interact with things easier, but when you don't have that, what are you going to do? I think it's a fundamental human ability, at least fundamental as of the 1900s, fundamental to be able to read, understand, and communicate again. I hate talking to, moral or social degradation, because it is often a talking point used by some folks to elicit radical and often meaningless change. But it does feel like that when we suddenly lose the ability to speak, to listen, to hear the other person. There was this really brilliant post that I saw on Twitter. It was a bit of a meme, wherein a teacher, and this is what we call an unreliable narrator, STEM kid, when are we going to use this in real life? So many people using the term gaslight incorrectly, trying to elevate lying into this great moral sin, when, first of all, gaslighting is a specific kind of mental abuse where you discredit the other person's subjective reality or understanding of the situation, but also just call it lying. And lying is bad. But lying is not necessarily a failure of humanity. People will always be operating off their own agendas, and their operating off their agenda doesn't necessarily make them a bad person. Of course, there are lies that are just objectively hurtful and they should not be around, and I disagree with those. But when people lie, they're trying to do something. And it's just as much their responsibility to do better as it is your responsibility to be able to read that stuff, to be able to understand that stuff, to be able to be cautious and look out for signs. We have a lot of tools that do things for us now, that make things easier. And I'm not against that. I'm really happy that we exist in a day and age where life gets to be easy for a lot of people. I don't think we should go back to pick up a rock and throw it at neighbor. I don't think that boys going to war is an essential part of a young 16-year-old's childhood. I think that the world can be kind and good and should be easy for a lot of people. But I really don't want it to be easy at the expense of those people. That the pleasures they're able to reach aren't as high as those who had to work towards learning how to interact with the world, to interrogate the world, to really fight against it and grapple it, versus just letting it roll them. I can't remember who it is. Please, if you recall who said this, put it in chat because I would love to pin the message. But somebody once said that I realized I spent a lot of my life being rolled by the world, but then when I realized that I could do something about it, do something about my trajectory, and that something meaningfully changed the world in a way that I enjoyed, that I never stopped letting the world roll me. The intentionality of how you interact with the world is so important. And either because we've given up or either because it's too much, we've let the world roll us for however long, however far, and we've lost the plot. We've lost the point. Why are we here? Why do we exist? Why are we in the spot right now? I feel for the education system, really. I don't know how it's changed since I've last been in it, and boomers will always decry that the young ones aren't doing enough. It will always be the case. And I want to give people the benefit of the doubt. But you can understand my trepidation, right? I don't know. I just think I need somebody to tell me that it's gonna go all right. Ding, 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 10 minutes.